Yeah.
You know, that's already happening too. You need anti-deepfake police.
Where does it end?
With the anti-deepfake police.
Ah, what's it on?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hello Chip Dippers. Now I'm almost done putting together a video where we try to contact the International Space Station from a Commodore 64. That video will be with early access supporters any moment now, and it's going to be out of this world, literally. But long projects like that would usually leave me occasionally taking a weekend retro recipes fast, but you deserve better than that. And so the idea for Retro Recipes Reheated has been cooked up. And you know, sometimes the YouTube algorithm gods really shine upon videos. And sometimes, well, not so much. But I think they're worth a second look. And other times there will be projects that I want to revisit because of exciting updates. So it's a pretty hot idea, don't pardon the pun. But today I invite you to join me and Team17's Worms coder, Chris Blythe, for a really fun interview that you've probably missed as we rediscover a day in the life of a Worms developer, complete with bonus footage and updates. Ooh.
Hello Chip Dippers, welcome to Retro Recipes, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. He is the developer from Team17, it's Mr. Chris Blythe.
Ta-da!
Where's that round of applause come from?
That's amazing.
Anyway, Chris is of course one of the developers behind Worms and Worms 2, not to mention a few other games, X2, Pig. So why don't you give everyone at home just a real quick intro as to what you did at Team17.
All right. I was brought in at a point where the game was still really small, but it was still pretty much developed. Got pulled on to work on doing the 3D animation. And then we did that, which was a massive success. And then I went on to then develop with Rory McLeish, Rory Little, and Mark Taylor.
Rory Little is Little Rory, and he's little.
Okay.
And then Big Rory is a Big Rory, and he's Rory McLeish, he's Scottish.
Ah, gotcha. Surely Little Rory has grown up by now.
No,
he's bigger.
Well, he's tall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
To do Worms 2 intro animations, which again did really well. We also did artwork for different add-ons, like we did the Worms United and all those other ones, and those are really cool. They're really, really good fun to do.
Yeah.
And then after that, I did other things like X2, and we did Witchwood, of course, and Pig, which was all those ones that we tried different things, but those ones didn't work out, as we know.
It's interesting you mentioned Witchwood, Pig, X2, and Allegiance as well as another.
Allegiance, yeah, that was another good one.
So when Chris kindly donated a lot of the Team17 stuff to the channel here, and we went on and did charity auctions with it and had a lot of fun, some of the stuff I found was a CD with the old intro for X2 for the, was it for the Sega?
Saturn,
Sega Saturn, yeah. Which never got released, that version, because I think the Saturn tanked shortly before that. And then Pig, so tell me, PIG was the initial.
I remember Mike Green, who's now in Australia, who still keep in contact with. He was one of the artists on that, and then there was a bunch of other people that worked on it. And I think it had some good ideas, but I think at that time, Team17 were so Worms focused, other things kind of fell by. And at the same time, it was a young company. You're really figuring out a lot of how they were being and what they were doing. So there was a lot of, they realized that now that they were young, and there's some things that they should have taken up on and some things they shouldn't have done. And some things like Allegiance actually could have been, I think, a good game, and it was kind of dropped at the wrong time.
Right.
And there's a lot of that happened, and it felt like there was a lot of, it was kind of scattered in the way that it was happening. But again, it was all just happening. Yeah. Nobody really knew what the right thing to do was. So, and certain things I would say is like, no, they should have kept on with that. But you can't tell.
Well, Witchwood to me is the fascinating one. Obviously, we did a special episode where because we found some of the original cutscene data on your hard disk.
Yeah, it's bananas.
Among other things, but that's another story.
Wasn't mine. It's Rory McLeish's.
Well, these are the images on the hard disk inside this.
I don't know whose that is.
Right?
It's not mine.
Yeah, but that's where we found them.
Yeah, a big boy gave me that.
So maybe they were example images.
It was when Rory was spraying that black. That's probably when he put the images in there.
Probably.
I don't know.
You heard it here last. But yeah, Witchwood obviously looked fascinating. It was kind of a Legend of Zelda.
Welcome to Witchwood.
It's sad to me that out of all of them, that's the saddest that it never got completed.
It was a shame. There was a lot of really good artists that were working on that, and that game was the right game just at the wrong time, because that was the time when 3D and the 3D effects or what it was. All the original 3D games came out, and it didn't really matter, what it was. If it was 3D, yay! And all these graphics cards that you could get, like remember the Voodoo cards and all that?
3D effects.
Yeah, 3D effects. Yeah. But the way that even they mapped the textures on was so bad. Some games looked like, oh, it's 3D, so it's fine, and that's where it all went. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it could have been a really fun, interesting game that wasn't at the right time.
Yeah. Such a shame. And then, of course, the other place you worked after that was Digital Domain, which is why we ended up with an Amiga 4000 that had footage on it from Titanic, among other things.
That was great.
So we also found footage, or we found a photo of that machine on the set of True Lies. So how involved were you in the making of those movies?
So I arrived after that.
Okay.
After Titanic, everyone was exhausted and broken. And actually, even then, Digital Domain couldn't get hired to do anything. They actually went through a weird phase for apparently about 8 months or something when no one come near them because they thought they were going to be expensive. But there was a burgeoning commercials division where the people in the features division took time to implement and make things, and the commercials division had to move faster.
Right.
So I was brought across to become part of what was called the NT division, the rogue NT division. And we were using, amongst other things, Lightwave was like the popular one then. Digital Domain, everyone realized, that was, there were golden years then.
Yeah. And you said you keep in touch with everyone. So has James Cameron seen our video?
Yeah, he's got some comments. No, I don't know.
I've been worried.
Actually, no, I mean, Jim was really on the outskirts of things, when I started going there.
Okay.
You didn't really seem that much.
Well, we have some questions from patrons coming up in a minute, because we gave them the opportunity to put Q&A stuff to you.
Cool.
You can A their Qs.
I will A them. That sounded bad.
Careful.
Yeah.
But firstly, I had a quick question as well. As part of the haul, we also got your diary, which was pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And you can see here, as we flick through it, that it mentions, your day-to-day life of a Worms developer. I have two questions.
Tell me.
First one, which a lot of people noticed when I showed that footage to begin with. Do people notice the name Charmaine Sinclair at the top of one of the pages?
Yeah.
And she was a page 3 model or a...
No, what it was, I knew her from when didn't know her. I met her at ECTS, which is the European Trade Computer Show.
Okay.
And she was one of the people demoing for something, and just standing there. There was her, there was met another girl at the same time. And she was very all curvy, and I remember all that. Yeah. But I don't know anything about what happened to her.
So aside from that and trade shows, what was basically, in a nutshell, a typical day at Team17? So you'd roll up in your car, get in the office.
I'd get out my Lamborghini. And so we'd go into the office. We always had projects to work on. A lot of the times when I was working on, say, let's just take X2. X2 was a roll-on from Project X.
Right.
And any project that we were doing had the same parts to them. So if we were working on, say, a project that was that was like an intro sequence, you'd have people, you'd have to model it. You'd have to storyboard it first and model it. And you'd really just break down all the different tasks. So this car has to be built, this city has to be built, these things have to be built. And then you'd look at the artist and say, okay, you do this, I'll do this, and we do this. Okay.
Right.
And then that would just happen for a while, and you'd review them as you're going along. And you'd have to, obviously, there's other things that would happen. Something would say, we need an artist to do something on one of the other things, and we'd have to siphon them off, and they'd go off and do something. So during the day, a lot of it was, we're just working on things that had already been pre-assigned.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, what we loved doing was when we were coming up with ideas for things, which then gave us other ideas for other things. So there was different development parts. There was development of like coming up with ideas, narrowing them down, coming up with other ideas. Should we incorporate them? And then we got down to the grunt work of modeling. And then after the modeling was done, then it might be shot layout or scene layout and animation, and then we'd have to roll into animation, and everyone would have given different tasks for that too. And then we'd have to, then they'd maybe, that would all finish, and then they'd go off and do other things, and then I'd have to take all that and then edit it all together and do the sound effects and music and things like that.
So to us growing up with those games, it felt like it must have been really exciting. Like my dream would have been to visit someone like Team17's office or Psygnosis and just see all these guys at work. Was there a sense of that excitement internally? Were you aware of that?
Yes and no. I felt incredibly lucky working at a games company, and it was really exciting. But we didn't know like Worms was going to be that. I mean, I knew kind of when there was a time when I was up visiting. It was in Christmas time, and I was up at my girlfriend's mum and dad's place, and I heard somebody playing Worms with snowballs, grenade, like this. I'll get you. And I heard them doing that. I'm like, oh my God, kids are playing Worms in the snow. And I realized this is actually really big. When you're inside a company, you can't see the wood for the trees. And sometimes I felt like I knew more about Team 17 before I got there. And then when you're inside, you're in it. You don't hear the noise.
Sort of like an incubator, and you just can't see outside.
Yeah, it's, you know, but it was, we knew it was exciting, but we didn't know how, again, special it was. Being at that time at Team 17 was super, super special. It was at a time when it was a lot smaller. And again, I think, you know, I keep in contact with a lot of these people still.
So when you finished Worms, and obviously that had that success, you started working on Worms 2. Was there more of a kind of, would you roll up into work and everyone would just kind of have a more knowing look? Like,
well,
we knew we're working on something special.
It's when Carl got the game working, and they were using a system called Animo. It was a spline rendering thing, which gave them a lot more fluid looks. When we started, we didn't really know how Worms 2 was going to be until we started seeing their new designs. That's when we were like, oh my God, this is going to be really good fun. It became something more. And I think that's when we went, oh, this is good. So we knew going forward, and then as the game is coming together, it's all craziness, and it's like you don't get a real moment to enjoy it. You had to stop every so often and look above and go, this is amazing. We're putting together something really special. And so Worms 2, when we started getting the cutscenes put together, we had so much fun putting together, and we know that like this is funny. This is funny. It's just funny comedy stuff. And you know, people would have different suggestions, and that was something that was really good as well. Is that like during X2 when I was doing that, I was doing this shot, and then John Allardyce came up and said, "Oh, you should do this shot and then that shot." I'm like, "Oh my God, it's so obvious. Yes, let's do that." And it wasn't like, "No, it's mine. I will keep it right here, and you can't have it." It wasn't like that at all. It was
a lot
always
of teamwork.
Absolutely, and that's where really the team of Team 17 came around. It wasn't this. No, I don't know. You know, it was none of that. It was like it was always. It felt very much like that. Now, it wasn't saying it was even Stevens all the time. There was sometimes it was like no, but you know, there's people having disagreements about things all the time.
Yeah, good times. And look, it's PCB Way, of course, our very kind sponsor, and we've always got to thank them for helping make these videos possible. They make fantastic PCBs. They even helped Paul Resendez make that A4000 PCB.
I saw that.
It's going to possibly replace the one in that very sad-looking Titanic Amiga 4000.
I still think we broke it when we switched it on. I think it would have worked, but then I didn't clip the battery in that one. That was the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
I'm thinking about that battery now. I could have.
We also blew the power supply.
Yeah.
When I did pose these questions to patrons, I did say nobody mentioned the power supply.
Let's not talk about that,
please. I won't talk about it. So our first question is from David Cherryman, and he says, "Have you blown up anything recently?"
No.
Sorry, we said we would
not talk about that. Recently. Define recently.
Since the last time you were here.
Okay, I have been known. I am a little older now, and I've calmed down somewhat. But I was known to have a bit of a temper when I was a bit fierier.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it has followed me. I've tried to evade it, and my history has caught up with me. That I used to break keyboards.
So we have, of course, the Amiga 4000 that had the broken 0 key on the number pad. There's a story behind that.
I think there was. I think that was in Lightwave Layout. I think it was that. It might not have been that one, but that could have been a Lightwave.
And you were you get frustrated with whatever you were doing and smack the keyboard.
Yeah. People would say it was like that game Boggle, with you have to do the thing and then the key. So I'd hit key. So what happened was I went through so many keyboards at work that Martin Brown got me an industrial keyboard that you can't break.
Interesting.
And I think I either took it with me or they sent it to me in LA. And then, but they didn't send it fast enough, and I'd gone through quite a few keyboards. And everyone knew it was like when I used to go mad. Oh God, I used to have such a bad temper, it was really bad. A few of the keyboards the IT department started hanging them up, and I had a little corridor to my office, my cube, and it was like a wall of keyboards with half the keys hanging off. But now I don't. I've not gone through a keyboard for days.
Well, one thing that I made sure of when I sent that Amiga 4000, the Team 17 one, to the National Video Game Museum back in England, is I said to them, do not repair the zero key, because I think that's a little bit of the story. It's a little bit of history.
Yeah, I think it was probably a lightweight related thing.
Well, David does have another question.
All right.
He says, if there was one thing that you wished you could have changed or added to the Worms games, what would it have been?
Well, in terms of the only thing I would probably change, I would say wouldn't be in the game, it would be getting into the game. And I think that was the problem for a lot of people. And back then, when games were released, that was it. There was no over-the-air updates. There was no internet,
You're
updates.
stuck with whatever you put out there.
The gold master, and people always forget what gold masters were. CDs back then were gold-colored. That's what it was. They were literally
a gold.
Gold. They were gold ones. Yeah.
Wow. Another question from Puppyfractic.
Oh.
She says, human talk goldfish bowl orifice. I think she's referring to something about you having what was called the Goldfish Bowl office.
Oh, yeah.
At Team17, and you weren't happy there or something?
Yeah, I let it be known that I didn't like that office. The way my office was is that I moved out of my... I get easily distracted. So I need to have quiet. So a lot of the times in my professional career, I've ended up working at night because during the day, I'm dealing with everyone else's problems, and then I get to work on my stuff. But in that particular fishbowl, office, I should say, the stairs to Team17 were here. All the rest of the office was there, and my office was above the stairs. So as you go down the office, you'd see directly into my room, and my back was facing, and I didn't like that.
That's not very feng shui.
It totally isn't. No. And so occasionally, I may have had a wardrobe malfunction when people were going down the stairs, with just showing the cheeks of persuasion. And then I got moved into another office, actually a smaller office, but way further from that.
And so this is how you got things done at Team17?
It's actually worked throughout my professional career completely. Whenever there's a problem, I just show my bum, and then things work in my favor.
Is that how you got Charmaine Sinclair's phone number?
She showed me her bum.
Okay, I like her last name, that's all I know.
What's her name?
Sinclair.
Oh. Did she have anything to do with it?
We'll
that was her dad.
Have to ask her.
No, yeah, I don't know.
Coming up next week,
isn't she? She's American.
Oh, I don't know any Americans.
I think she is. Oh, no.
Okay, it's a question from Tim Felgentreff.
Felgentreff?
It's a good name, isn't it?
Isn't that kind of, that sounds like some machine. It's use the Felgentreff. You know?
The Felgentreff 2000.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
Yeah. Anyway, so he says, Worms came comparatively late in the Amiga's lifetime.
Yes. And
was available on other platforms too. Was there something special about the Amiga, its fans, or even the sales figures that you can remember? Also, why wasn't Worms 2 on the Amiga?
That was at the end of the Amiga's life. Sadly, it wasn't financially viable. And then when Director's Cut was coming out, Andy was really disappointed because, you know, getting that game out was like, it wasn't going to make money. The cost of manufacturing it back then, because it was a physical product, was more than the money they're going to get back. And the Amiga version was kind of like, it was kind of bittersweet because I think we all knew it was like, this is going to be the last one.
Yeah.
You know, one of the last games that was going to be on the Amiga platform.
Well, you know, it lives on.
Yeah.
So that admiration is there now.
Absolutely.
Regardless of sales.
And also, the fact is that the code base was so small, how they could actually get it into that time. It was bonkers.
Incredible. Dan White says, what inspired the series? I think he means Worms. Were there any games or other material that were a heavy influence on development?
On that, it would be Scorched Earth. Scorched Earth was the game that actually provided the impetus to make Worms.
Okay. Scorched
Earth was just the same. You angle it and then you fire, and that's all it was. Just tanks.
Yeah.
Just tanks and doing that. But that was just one aspect of Worms, of course. All the other cool stuff Andy Davidson came up with, all the Holy Hand Grenade and the Donkey, Concrete Donkey, and all these things.
Yeah. So David Cherryman is back again with another question.
They're all interesting names.
Right? David says, was there anything that you could have got involved with but declined and now regret? Good question.
Oh, man. That's a good one.
Yeah.
We didn't decline anything. I like architecture. I should have done that.
Because I wanted to be an architect.
That's what I want to be.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you have to find creative outlet, especially like if you wanted to be an architect. Or then they say that if you don't channel that, you can lead to schizophrenia, or you know, you can go mad.
My voice tells me that. My other voice tells me exactly the same thing as that. Actually, they're talking to me right now.
The voice just fed
me. No,
me
I won't kill them all.
All right. And now we have a question from Ladyfractic. And she says...
I've never met Ladyfractic. Is she real?
She's in the other room. No, she's at work. Unfortunately, she has a proper job, a real job, unlike me.
I don't have a proper job.
Hi Chris, Ladyfractic here. Just Ladyfractic. Like Madonna. Anyway, I was wondering if you could recommend anywhere to visit in Scotland.
I would actually recommend up the West Coast is amazing in the summertime. Summer was on a Thursday this year. So, yeah, you've got to get your times right. And then, but I would always recommend to go to during the Edinburgh, during the Festival Fringe. Okay. It is electric there. It's just amazing.
There you go.
There you go.
Ladyfractic.
Edinburgh.
One more question and we are done. And this is from Paul Jacobson.
Paul Jacobson?
Definitely made
Hey, Paul.
He says, what's your take on deep fakes? And do you think it has a place in movie or game SFX in the future?
It already does. Because the way that technology was just a few years ago was painstaking and a nightmare to do. And I think the Princess Leia example is a really great example.
Right.
And yeah, so I think it's a dangerous world. It's very tricky and it's super exciting. And at the same time, we all know where it's going. It can go down that road, the bad road, which is, you know, you can immediately take someone's voice and copy it and make them say anything and visually copy them and make them say anything you want. Absolutely, does it have place in visual effects? It already does, and it's already going to get more. And then on top of that, you'll have sets that instead of building those sets, they'll do front camera projection onto screens, and which is what they're doing with Mandalorian, and they've done some great demos with that. And it's something that we thought about years ago when we had camera projection. We could project a texture. We realized, wonder if they could come up with screens and we could do all that stuff. But you add that, and then you add all the deep fake stuff together. Yeah. It's not just about deep fake, it's about machine learning and how that can be part of the creative process. I don't know how you can control that. There's going to be other computers that can see deepfakes and tell you, so you know it's deepfake. Yeah. You know, that's already happening too. You need anti-deepfake police.
Where does it end?
With the anti-deepfake police.
Ah, what's it on?
Yeah,
literally.
I can tell you one thing for sure, nobody's ever going to change my voice.
Or mine.
And for this reheated video, I asked Chris to give us a little update about what he's up to now.
For my newest project, I've decided, for better or worse, to build a Fairlight CMI. Now, what is a Fairlight, I hear you ask? The Fairlight was the most iconic and industry-changing musical device of the 80s. It basically defined the idea of a DAW, or a digital audio workstation. It combined sampling, sequencing, arranging, basically everything. And that all started in 1979. For its time, it was super futuristic. It had a light pen and this mainframe. However, they were also super expensive. You could literally buy 1 or 2 homes for the likes of these things. So it was kind of like the Stevie Wonders, the Hansomers, Peter Gabriel, Kate Bushes, and Jean-Michel Jarres of the world that could afford them. So there was only 300 of these things ever built. However, through a long and strange story, I've managed to obtain the basic computer cards to allow the hardware and software to run as a CMI. But there's a plethora of stuff that I don't have, but I'm working on that. I've gotten a hold of the rack or cage to house all these cards, and with the help of Steve Rance and the rest of the Fairlight community, I'm getting all the obscure technical help that I'll need to build this machine. So, there were 300 Fairlight CMIs. I want to make it 301.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, Chris.
Yeah.
You've become a pretty good friend. Yeah. I would like to say.
Yes, it's been great fun.
I feel honoured to have met you and for you to have donated this stuff to us, and obviously all the good stuff that it's gone on to do. So thank you for that. But not this one. Chris has taken this one home with him. Yeah. Because after he saw it on my video, he decided that he was rather in love with that.
I was. It really was. I think something that I've really enjoyed, apart from meeting you and knowing you more, is that it actually has given me more of a like, oh yeah, wait, this is fun. I remember all this. And so I remember when I dropped this off, when I was wanting to kind of give it to someone else to give it a new life, this is what it's been done. This is what the best part is that giving it to you is giving it the best thing. All the best things have happened, and I'm super pleased for that. But when I saw this particular machine, I was like, yeah, I think I need one machine. So you know what I ordered today? What? A new power supply. For that machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I bought you one already.
Oh, you did?
So we'll talk about it.
All right. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
It is pretty sexy.
Yeah, it really is. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Great stuff.
Always a pleasure. Yeah. And I'll be back next time with more delicious retro recipes. So thanks for watching. Subscribe below and
cheerio.
Cheerio.
My name's Flunk McClure. You might remember me from venereal disease.